Good afternoon, colleagues. I see everybody settling down. I'd like to personally welcome everybody back. This signifies the beginning of working months ahead after a very slow August, so welcome back. I myself am very happy to be back. I think I gained a few kilos. I was expecting to lose. I think I gained a few. Excellencies, distinguished participants, the organizational meeting of the 63rd session of the Human Rights Council is now open. This meeting is organized in line with Rule 8B of the Council's Rules of Procedure. We are going to review the draft program of work and share information on draft resolutions and other initiatives planned during the 63rd session. I have the pleasure now of welcoming Ms. Awa Dabo, the Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights. Pursuant to President's Statement PRST OS/19/1, Ms. Dabo will provide an updated and comprehensive assessment of the feasibility of implementing the activities that have been identified as non-deliverables in 2025 and/or 2026, and the criteria underpinning such assessments, as well as any other activities mandated by the Council during the 2025-2027 that might be affected by the liquidity and financial crisis. Delegations will be given an opportunity to ask questions or make comments after the update. We will then proceed to other outstanding business, including consideration of the extraordinary modalities of the 63rd session, the overview of the draft program of work, and sharing information on draft resolutions and other initiatives planned during the upcoming regular session. Excellencies, distinguished participants, I now have the honor to give the floor to Ms. Dabo for her update on the activities that had been identified by the OHCHR as non-deliverable, as well as any other activities mandated by the Council that might be affected by the ongoing liquidity and financial crisis. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good afternoon. I am here today, as mentioned by the President, pursuant to President's Statement OS/19/1, to update the Council on the Office's assessment of the feasibility of implementing the activities that have been identified as non-deliverable in 2025 and 2026, as well as any other activities mandated by the Council during the period 2025 to 2027 that might be affected by the fluid liquidity situation that the Secretariat faces. First, to provide context, allow me to recall that the approved regular budget for the Office for 2026 amounts to $221.19 million, representing a reduction of $25.28 million US, compared to $246.47 million US approved in 2025. Since my previous update on 1st June, OHCHR has received an additional amount, bringing our allotment currently at around 80%. However, the timing of the release in tranches of what remains a partial allocation or partial allotment limits the Office's ability to effectively manage its operations, which often require long-term planning, and also limits the support to the implementation of mandated activities within the resources available at a given time. While the Office makes every effort to fulfill mandates entrusted to it by the Council, mandated activities continue to be affected by the ongoing liquidity situation and recruitment restrictions. I recall here that intergovernmental working groups, expert mechanisms, and special procedures established by the Council continue to operate under reduced modalities, including fewer sessions, reduced meeting times, and a significantly curtailed number of country visits. For special procedure mandate holders at present, country visits are still being maintained at the reduced rate of approximately 1 visit per year per mandate. Due to the same constraints, the Office is currently unable to proceed with the organization of the 35th session of the Human Rights Council Advisory Committee and the 37th session of the Working Group on communications of the Council complaints procedure, both scheduled to have taken place in Geneva earlier this month. Mr. President, allow me to turn to mandates that are due at the upcoming 63rd session of the Council. I am pleased to confirm that all thematic reports for this session, previously identified as at risk for non-delivery, are now expected to be delivered, as indicated in my previous update. These include the report on the impact of the use of strategic lawsuits against public participation on the enjoyment and realization of human rights, in particular, the right to freedom of opinion and expression, pursuant to Council Resolution 56/7 of July 2024, and the report on best practices of states, local governments, and other relevant stakeholders in overcoming the various challenges that local governments face in promoting and protecting human rights, pursuant to Council Resolution 57/12 of October 2024. The preparation of both reports for the upcoming session was made possible by holding scaled-down online activities last year. Whilst this was a necessary cost-saving measure, online meetings, often conducted in one language only, reduce the ability to ensure diverse and wide participation of stakeholders. In addition, 2 reports flagged as delayed in my previous update and postponed to the 63rd session are now on track for submission to the upcoming session. They are namely the report of the Secretary General on prevention of genocide, with a particular focus on early warning and prevention, mandated in Council Resolution 55.1/13 to be submitted both to the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly, and the analytical study of OHCHR on protection gaps of vulnerable segments of the population regarding access to medicines, vaccines, and other health products in the context of the right of everyone to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health, mandated in Council Resolution 59/7. I wish to draw your attention, however, to the fact that these reports, as well as several others, are expected to be submitted late and available only as advanced unedited versions by the time of their consideration, due to staffing constraints arising from the liquidity situation. We regret the impact that this may have on the discussions relating to these reports. Rest assured that we have endeavored to mitigate these delays as much as possible. I will now turn to the remaining mandates that the Office will also be able to implement partially to mitigate the impact of the restrictions on recruitment. Following the mandate by Resolution S37/1 of February 2025, the operationalization of the Commission of Inquiry on the human rights situation in the South and Nord-Kivu provinces of the Democratic Republic of Congo continues to face significant constraints, due in particular to hiring restrictions. With the Commission's reporting timelines adjusted, a comprehensive written report will be presented at the 64th session during an enhanced interactive dialogue, and a report presented to the General Assembly at its 82nd session. The Office was able to support the deployment of a core team to Kinshasa, as well as the Commission's first mission to the Democratic Republic of Congo in July 2026, with a second mission planned in September. Concerning the independent investigative mechanism for Afghanistan, established by this Council last year in its Resolution 60/2, OHCHR played a leading role in developing the mechanism's terms of reference through extensive consultations with UN entities, investigative bodies, international NGOs, and Afghan civil society organizations. To strengthen its engagement and support activities, a dedicated trust fund was created in early 2026 to finance outreach, protection measures, and cooperation with Afghan civil society. And I am pleased to report that startup staff are expected to be deployed in the coming weeks. Technical assistance and capacity building mandates of the Office, unfortunately, continue to be affected by the financial situation. While partial progress has been made on the implementation of the Council's resolution on Somalia and Libya, the hiring restrictions continue to significantly hinder the Office's ability to fulfill its technical assistance mandate to the DRC, which requires highly specialized expertise, such as forensic scientists. As mentioned in my previous update, Several thematic resolutions passed by this Council call for OECHR to enhance its thematic field activities, including by creating new field positions in the areas of economic, social, and cultural rights, sustainable development, and the right to development. Regrettably, this work continues to be significantly impacted by the inability to recruit against newly created positions due to the hiring restrictions. Nevertheless, our teams continue to strengthen engagement at field level in these areas. It has also been possible to partially implement Council Resolution 56/10 on peaceful protests to further the operationalizing of the mandate in all 5 planned countries. Mr. President, recent efforts made by delegations to streamline, downsize, merge, or conclude mandates are significant. Such rationalization initiatives remain critical to ensuring the effectiveness of the Council within the current circumstances without prejudice to the integrity of its mandate. Allow me to recall that the Human Rights Council MAPA is a useful tool at the disposal of member states when developing, reviewing, and renewing mandates. While it has not been developed to the full extent, due to the liquidity crisis, by providing a structured overview of Council resolutions, mandate activities, mechanisms, and indicative requirements, the Human Rights MAPA can support more informed decision-making and can help identify potential duplication, overlap, and opportunities for greater coherence and efficiency. As always, the Office remains available to provide guidance on efficiency and rationalization measures and encourages early engagement to help prevent unintended protection gaps. I also take the opportunity to provide a brief update on Workstream 2 of the UN 80 Initiative on Mandate Implementation Review in the follow-up of the General Assembly Resolution 80/251. On 31st July, the Secretary General released his report on Mandate Implementation Review, examining how mandates are created, delivered, and reviewed across the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, and the Human Rights Council and their subsidiary bodies. The report does not assess the merits of individual mandates, which remain the responsibility of member states. Instead, the report focuses on systemic challenges, including duplications, weak coordination, fragmentation, mandate resource gaps, and uneven review mechanisms, and sets out possible solutions, some within the Secretary General's authority and others requiring member states' action. OECHR remains closely engaged in the process and with the ad hoc working groups provides technical input at the request of co-chairs and supports New York-Geneva coordination across intergovernmental bodies. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, in line with our commitment to transparency, the High Commissioner and our office remain available to the Council, to delegations and other stakeholders for any further clarification on mandated activities and challenges posed by current liquidity constraints. I must again underscore the critical importance of all member states meeting their assessed contributions in full and on time, which remains essential for the organization to plan delivery on its mandates. I remain grateful for your attention and for the spirit of cooperation that continues to guide our shared efforts. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy High Commissioner for her update. We take note of the information provided concerning the current status of implementation of mandated activities. I would now like to open the floor for delegations wishing to ask questions or make comments on the update by the Deputy High Commissioner. I see no request for the floor. I would like to thank the Deputy High Commissioner for her update. Excellencies, distinguished participants, allow me to recall that, as noted in Bureau Minutes of 15 July 2026, the cash conservation measures that have been put in place by the United Nations Office in Geneva in 2025 would continue until further notice. This entails the continuing need to reduce the number of Council meetings by at least 10% below the 2024 levels. The Council achieved this 10% reduction at both its 61st and 62nd sessions by adopting extraordinary time-saving modalities. The Bureau was informed by the Secretariat that were the Council to apply the same modalities to the 63rd session, the required 10% reduction would again be met. Consequently, the Bureau agreed to propose to the Council for its approval the following extraordinary modalities for the 63rd session. Namely, the speaking time limits for general debates would be 1 minute 30 seconds for all, and the duration of interactive dialogues and enhanced interactive dialogues would be capped at 1 hour and 30 minutes, with 15 minutes allocated to mandate holders, 1 hour to states, and 15 minutes to NGOs. Let me underscore once again that these measures constitute a set of extraordinary measures applicable only for the 63rd session of the Council in response to the current financial and liquidity crisis. Let me also reaffirm, as the Bureau did, the importance of preserving multilingualism and accessibility in spite of the current financial situation. Are there now any members of the Council wishing to comment on the above proposal? I see no request for the floor. Can I therefore take it that the Council adopts these extraordinary measures for the 63rd session, which do not constitute a precedent and will be recorded in the report of the 63rd session in order to serve as a point of reference in the future? It is so decided. Excellencies, distinguished participants, for meetings of the 63rd regular session of the Human Rights Council, states and other observers, NGOs in consultative status with ECOSOC and NHRIs with A status will continue to have possibility to deliver their statements in person or via pre-recorded video statement. May I please encourage all delegations that are submitting video statements to ensure that the audio is of sufficient high quality to permit interpretation. In the past, we had some cases in which the quality had not permitted interpretation of the video and therefore were not played to us. Are there any delegations wishing to take the floor on the issue of modalities for the session? I see no request for the floor. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, let me now turn to the program of work for the 63rd regular session of the Council, which is scheduled to open on Monday, 7 September at 10 a.m., 2 weeks from now. The latest draft program of work is available on the HRC portal, our new online platform which replaces the former HRC extranet. So now it's called the HRC portal. It is a living document that is updated on a regular basis. In this connection, an online presentation of the upgraded HRC portal will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, 25th of August at 11 a.m., followed by an informal briefing for new delegates. I will revert to both at the end of this meeting. Let me thank you in advance for your cooperation in respecting the speaking time limits in order to complete the adjusted program of work on time. The event's online inscription system for states to inscribe on the list of speakers for all general debates, interactive dialogues, and panel discussion will open on Monday, 31st August at 10 a.m. The list of speakers will close approximately 15 minutes after the beginning of each debate. I kindly ask all delegations to respect the deadlines. The online system for the list of speakers for the adoption of UPR outcomes will open on Monday, 14 September at 9 a.m. and close on Thursday, 17 September at 6 p.m. No inscriptions will be possible after this deadline. For national human rights institutions and non-governmental organizations, the list of speakers for all debates during the session will open online on Tuesday, 1 September at 2 p.m. For indigenous peoples, the list of speakers for the interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on the rights of indigenous peoples and with the expert mechanism on the right of indigenous peoples, as well as for the annual panel discussion on the rights of indigenous people, will also open online on 1 September at 2 p.m. via the events platform. The procedure for registration for the list of speakers for panel discussions and interactive dialogue will be the same as for previous sessions. Interested states will be asked to rank panels and interactive dialogues in the order of their priorities. Speaking slots will be allocated by the system taking into account their priorities. If the number of states indicating the highest priority for a particular debate exceeds the maximum number of available speaking slots, the slots will be allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, during the 63rd session, the Council will hold 6 panel discussions. I would like to now invite the main sponsors to provide a brief update on these panel discussions. Delegations wishing to share information on the draft resolutions and other initiatives will have a chance to do so later. First, the panel discussion on progress, challenges, and opportunities in promoting and protecting economic, social, and cultural rights within the context of addressing inequalities will be held pursuant to Council Resolution 60/14. And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of China to introduce this initiative on behalf of the main sponsors. You have the floor, Madam.
主席先生，各位同事，根据人权理事会60-14号消除不平等背景下促进和保护人权决议的授权，人权理事会第63届会议将于2026年9月9日下午4时至6时，在议题3下举行同名小组研讨会。中方仅代表由玻利维亚、中国、埃及、巴基斯坦和南非组成的决议核心小组，介绍会议的筹备情况。长期以来，经济社会及文化权利没有获得应有的重视，而在资源短缺等多重全球性挑战交织叠加之下，国际和国家层面的不平等现象更加凸显，严重阻碍了人人得以享有人权和可持续发展目标的实现。本次小组研讨会旨在讨论在消除不平等现象的背景下，促进和保护经社文权利方面的进展、挑战和机遇，包括财政危机对高专办开展的促进和保护经社文权利工作的影响，鼓励会员国、联合国各机构、社会组织等各利益攸关方交流成就、挑战与最佳做法，探讨人权高专办如何根据社权支持会员国促进和保护经社文权利，更好地为成员国提供咨询服务和技术援助。会议将邀请人权高专致开幕词，并充分考虑地域代表性和性别的不平衡，由成员国、联合国人权机制、非政府组织和国家人权机构代表作为嘉宾发言。小组研讨会的报告将提交人权理事会第66届会议，并举行互动对话。会议概念文件已上传到人权理事会外联网。感谢人权高专办为会议筹备所做的工作。我们期待各方踊跃参与，坦诚对话，扩大共识，为 深化经社文权利领域的国际合作注入新动力。谢谢主席。
Thank you. Second is the biennial panel discussion on the right to development. It will be held pursuant to Council Resolution 43/23 and 60/7. It will focus on the theme of commemoration of the 40th anniversary of the Declaration on the Right to Development. The panel will be made accessible to persons with disabilities. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Uganda on behalf of the Movement of Non-Aligned Countries to introduce this initiative.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Non-Aligned Movement, we are privileged and happy to introduce the biannual panel discussion on the right to development under the theme that you just eloquently elaborated. Mr. President, the objective of the panel is, as you said, to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the adoption of the United Nations Declaration on the Right to Development, but also it is to reaffirm the commitment of the international community towards the effective realization of the right to development. It takes nobody to think twice, more than ever than today, that the right to development is something that we can't all elude or avoid or pretend not to know. And we are happy as a non-aligned movement to be bringing together a team that will be chaired by yourself, Mr. President, and will have the speakers, particularly the Deputy High Commissioner will be making opening remarks, and we are happy that the panel is very well constituted. It will consist of delegates or panelists from the diplomatic institutions. We'll have a member state, we'll have representatives from the expert mechanism, and then we'll also have the academia present. Mr. President, the main outcome will be a report that will be submitted to the Human Rights Council, but beyond it will be a comprehensive stock-taking of achievements and challenges and obstacles that are obstructing the realization of the right to development, including the much needed need to finalize the adoption of the Covenant on the Right to Development. We see you then. It will be on Friday, 11th at 10 a.m. to 12. And we invite everyone to join us constructively. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Third is the high panel discussion on the 15th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights Education and Training, Good Practices, Challenges, and the Way Forward. This will be held in line with Council Resolution 57/10. The panel will be made accessible to persons with disabilities. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Philippines to introduce this initiative on behalf of the main sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. President. A high-level panel discussion marking the 15th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, Education and Training will take place on Tuesday, 15 September 2026 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is pursuant to Human Rights Council Resolution 57/10, presented by Brazil, Costa Rica, Italy, Morocco, Senegal, Slovenia, Thailand, and the Philippines, and adopted by consensus in 2024. Under the theme, the 15th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, Education and Training, Good Practices, Challenges, and the Way Forward, the panel will reflect on progress made since the adoption of the Declaration in 2011 and consider good practices, challenges, and the way forward for strengthening its implementation. In synergy with the ongoing fifth phase from 2025 to 2026 of the World Programme for Human Rights Education, it will focus on human rights education for children and the youth. The panel discussion is expected to contribute to, among others, first, illustrate the continued relevance of the Declaration. Second, review good practices in implementing the Declaration and the World Programme for Human Rights Education. And third, explore how governments, national human rights institutions, and civil society can further collaborate in advancing human rights education. Human rights education and training remains one of the most powerful tools we have for building a universal culture of human rights. And this anniversary is a fitting moment to renew our collective commitment to its effective implementation. We warmly invite all delegations, civil society, and other stakeholders to an open and constructive exchange of views. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Fourth is the high-level panel discussion on the 60th anniversary of the International Covenants on Human Rights, universality, indivisibility, interdependence, and interrelatedness of all human rights will be held pursuant to Council Resolution 61/7. The panel will be made accessible to persons with disabilities, and I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation to introduce the panel on behalf of the main sponsors. You have the floor.
Господин председатель, благодарю вас. Можно мы вернемся к нашему представлению чуть-чуть попозже? Благодарю вас.
Okay. Can you come to your presentation after the sixth presentation? So we go to the sixth, and then we return to you. Okay, very good. Okay, fifth is the annual panel discussion on the right of indigenous peoples will be held pursuant to Council Resolutions 18/8 and 60/13. It will focus on the theme of Convention for the Protection of World Cultural and Natural Heritage, Indigenous Peoples' Rights and Engagement. The panel will be made accessible to persons with disabilities. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mexico to introduce the panel on behalf of the main sponsors. Madam, you have the floor.
Presidente, tengo el honor de tomar la palabra a nombre de México y de Guatemala para presentar la mesa redonda anual de mediodía de duración sobre los derechos de los pueblos indígenas que se llevará a cabo el 23 de septiembre de 2026. En esta ocasión, la mesa redonda estará dedicada al tema de la Convención para la Protección del Patrimonio Mundial Cultural y Natural, los derechos y la participación de los pueblos indígenas, de conformidad con la Resolución 60/13, adoptada por este Consejo el 7 de octubre de 2025. Durante esta discusión se buscará examinar el impacto de la Convención del Patrimonio Mundial de la UNESCO en los derechos humanos de los pueblos indígenas, en particular en lo relativo a sus tierras, territorios y recursos, el acceso a sitios religiosos y culturales y el derecho de los pueblos indígenas a mantener, controlar, proteger y desarrollar su patrimonio cultural, así como a buscar libremente su desarrollo económico, social y cultural de conformidad con la Declaración de las Naciones Unidas sobre los Derechos de los Pueblos Indígenas. Se propiciará el intercambio de experiencias sobre el reconocimiento de los valores culturales y los derechos de los pueblos indígenas asociados con sus tierras, territorios y recursos y su relación con el medio ambiente en el contexto de la Convención, incluido el valor universal excepcional de los sitios de patrimonio mundial de la UNESCO, y se identificarán buenas prácticas y desafíos en la participación e inclusión de los pueblos indígenas en la identificación, nominación, declaración, gestión y protección de dichos sitios. La mesa redonda contará con una declaración de apertura de la señora Agua Davo, Alta Comisionada Adjunta de las Naciones Unidas para los Derechos Humanos, así como con la participación de 3 personas expertas en la materia. Notablemente, de conformidad con la Resolución 60/13, será la primera ocasión en que los representantes de los pueblos indígenas participen en esta mesa redonda, identificándose como tales y no como representantes de la sociedad civil. La nota conceptual de esta mesa redonda ya está disponible en el nuevo portal digital del Consejo de Derechos Humanos. Deseamos agradecer al Secretariado por todo su apoyo en su elaboración. Alentamos a los estados, a los pueblos indígenas y a las organizaciones de la sociedad civil a participar de manera activa y constructiva en esta mesa redonda. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. Now we turn to the sixth, and that is the annual discussion on the integration of a gender perspective throughout the work of the Human Rights Council and that of its mechanisms, which will be held pursuant to Council Resolution 6/30. It will focus on the theme of From Gender Stereotypes to Structural Discrimination, Strengthening the Human Rights Council Response. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Chile to introduce this initiative. You have the floor, sir.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Tengo el honor de presentar el panel en el marco del debate anual sobre la integración de la perspectiva de género en la labor del Consejo de Derechos Humanos y sus mecanismos, conforme a la Resolución 6/30/2007, adoptada por consenso. Este evento tendrá lugar el 29 de septiembre. Este año, el tema que nos convoca será de los estereotipos de género a la discriminación estructural, reforzar la respuesta del Consejo de Derechos Humanos. La discusión invita a examinar cómo los estereotipos de género son factores de discriminación y desigualdad, así como su impacto en el disfrute pleno de los derechos humanos. Asimismo, se discutirán las obligaciones internacionales de los Estados para abordar los patrones socioculturales, las relaciones de poder desiguales y las normas que perpetúan estas prácticas. En este contexto, esperamos identificar buenas prácticas y enfoques innovadores para transformar las normas sociales discriminatorias y avanzar en la erradicación de los estereotipos de género, tanto en el ámbito público como en el privado, al mismo tiempo que profundizamos la comprensión de estos como una preocupación de derechos humanos. Quisiéramos finalmente expresar un especial agradecimiento a la Oficina del Alto Comisionado por su compromiso y dedicación en la preparación de este panel e informar que la nota conceptual se encuentra disponible en la extranet del Consejo. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. Next, can I turn to the Russian delegation to provide us on a brief update on the fourth high-level panel discussion on the 60th anniversary of the International Covenants on Human Rights, Universality, Indivisibility, Interdependence, and Interrelatedness of all human rights. Madam, you have the floor.
Благодарю вас, господин председатель. Российская Федерация имеет честь представить тематическую панель высокого уровня, посвященную 60-й годовщине принятия Международного пакта о гражданских и политических правах и Международного пакта об экономических, социальных и культурных правах, который состоится 17 сентября 2026 года с 10 часов утра до 12 часов утра в зале Ассамблеи. Основной целью тематической дискуссии является празднование 60-й годовщины двух международных пактов. Дискуссия состоится под вашим председательством, господин председатель, и основными целями этой дискуссии является подчеркнуть фундаментальное значение двух международных пактов о правах человека, показать, как два пакта влияют на ежедневную жизнь людей, как они влекут за собой правовые, политические и социальные изменения на национальном и местном уровнях. Рассмотреть имеющиеся пробелы и проблемы, которые ставят под угрозу полную реализацию всех прав человека, содержащихся в двух международных пактах, подчеркнуть универсальность, неделимость, взаимозависимость и взаимосвязь всех прав человека, а также взаимосвязь положений двух международных пактов, а также возобновить приверженность и усилия по достижению универсальной ратификации двух пактов. Мероприятие состоится в исполнении положения резолюции Совета по правам человека 61/7. И основной темой дискуссии будет 60-я годовщина международных пактов о правах человека, универсальность, неделимость, взаимозависимость и взаимосвязь всех прав человека. Мероприятие будет открыта к участию государств, представителей гражданского общества и других заинтересованных сторон. И также будут обеспечены меры доступности для лиц с ограниченными возможностями. Благодарю вас.
Thank you. This now concludes the updates on the panel discussion. I encourage all participants to consult the concept notes that have been made available and will be updated on the HRC portal in the coming days. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, we will now continue with the overview of the program of work. The session will begin with presentation of the oral update of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. During the session, the Council will hold 27 interactive dialogues with special procedure mandate holders, expert mechanisms and investigative mechanisms, 6 interactive dialogues with the High Commissioner or his office, 4 enhanced interactive dialogues, 1 interactive dialogue with the Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights, and 1 interactive dialogue with the Advisory Committee. Pursuant to Council Resolution 37/25, I invited the President of the ECOSOC to brief the Council on the outcomes of the high-level political forum and on progress in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The President of ECOSOC is expected to brief the Council on Wednesday, September 16th. Moreover, in accordance with Council Resolution 45/31, I invited the Chair of the PBC to brief the Council on the work of the Commission. I regret to inform you, however, that the Chair informed me that he is not in a position to brief the Council as requested. As President, I remain committed to exploring informal ways for the Council to benefit from other relevant bodies, including the PBC. Towards the end of the session, the Council is expected to appoint 7 special procedure mandate holders. In its report of August 7, 2026, the consultative group submitted its recommendations for 6 of the 7 vacancies. My list of proposed candidates for those 6 vacancies will be circulated and posted to the HRC portal as soon as possible following broad consultations. As indicated in its report, the consultative group was unable to complete its consideration of the remaining vacancy, that of a member from the African states of the Working Group on Enforced or Involuntary Disappearances. I look forward to receiving its recommendations for that mandate. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the consultative group for their work. I wish to highlight that the current draft program of work includes an enhanced interactive dialogue on the report of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the independent investigative mechanisms for Myanmar, scheduled to take place on 7 September. Allow me to recall that on 12 January of this year, the Bureau took note of the Secretariat's explanation that the situation concerning the representation of Myanmar at the General Assembly had remained unchanged since 2021, and pending a change of the status quo in the Credentials Committee of the General Assembly concerning the postponement of its consideration of the credentials pertaining to the representatives of Myanmar, the Council Secretariat cannot process the registration of anyone as part of the delegation of Myanmar in the Council in 2026. This is, in fact, a decision of the Bureau endorsed by the Council and has since become the practice since 2021-2022. On 15 July, in accordance with the previous Council decision since its 47th session in June 2021, the Bureau agreed that it will continue the past practice and proposed to the Council that the enhanced interactive dialogue on Myanmar, scheduled to take place during the 63rd session, proceed as scheduled without the participation of the country concerned. Such a proposal is made on the basis that this exceptional circumstances does not set a precedent for the future. At this stage, would any member of the Council would like to comment on this proposal? Do I see any request for the floor? I see none. So I take it that the Council accepts the Bureau proposal to continue to enhance interactive dialogue on Myanmar as scheduled without the participation of the country concerned. Are there any delegation wishing to take the floor at this stage to make comments on the draft program of work as it currently stands? I see no request for the floor to comment on the draft program of work. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, the deadline for submitting draft proposals for the 63rd session will be Thursday, 24 September at 1 p.m. Any request for extension should be approved by the Council before the deadline, and only under exceptional circumstances and for a maximum of 24 hours. In this context, let me kindly ask all delegations to submit their draft proposals on time. The e-delegate platform will continue to be used for the submission and sponsorship of draft resolutions. States are encouraged to check in advance that they have access to e-delegate. Now I invite delegations to share information on draft resolutions and other initiatives. Delegations wishing to take the floor in the room should raise their nameplates. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of China, followed by the UK and Cyprus.
主席先生，中方感谢联合国人权高专办所作通报，对理事会授权的多项行动无法得到落实表示遗憾。今年是人权理事会成立20周年，联大前不久协商一致通过了有关人权理事会地位重审的决议，人权领域改革持续推进。本届会议，中方将一如既往建设性地参与理事会的各项讨论，倡导对话合作，反对政治化、工具化，推动完善全球人权治理。主席先生，无障碍建设是一个国家文明和社会的标志。2024年10月，第57届人权理事会协商一致通过了中国及喀麦隆、洪都拉斯、巴基斯坦、土耳其等30国提交的无障碍建设促进所有人享有人权的决议。该决议首次在联合国提出了人人享有无障碍，有力增强各方对无障碍问题的认识和关注，促进了相关领域的国际合作，为残疾人、老年人等各类群体平等参与社会生活和享有人权提供保障。为进一步落实这一决议，推动无障碍事业发展，本届会上核心小组将再次提出人人享有无障碍主题决议，并举办配套活动，欢迎各方建设性地参与决议草案磋商，积极参与相关的无障碍活动，期待同各方共同努力，确保为所有人创造无障碍的环境，更好地享有人权。谢谢主席。
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of UK, followed by Cyprus and Cuba.
President, On behalf of the core group, comprised of Germany, Ireland, the Netherlands, Norway and the UK, we will be presenting a resolution under item 2, responding to the human rights and humanitarian crisis caused by the ongoing armed conflict in Sudan. The main purpose of the resolution is to extend the mandate of the fact-finding mission, which we believe is doing crucial, unique work on our behalf. This Council has met twice in this last year, first to condemn the horrifying scenes in El Fasher, and just before the summer break to raise the alarm on escalating atrocities in El Obeid. It is clear that the fact-finding mission on Sudan is needed now more than ever. As the ongoing conflict in Sudan continues to devastate civilian lives, the fact-finding mission's efforts to document human rights violations and abuses must continue in order to ensure justice for victims and to end impunity. We will hold open, informal meetings in line with standard practice and hope delegations will be able to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cyprus, followed by Cuba and Côte d'Ivoire.
Cyprus would like to inform about a side event we will co-host with Iceland and the UN Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund on September 9th, entitled Providing Protection and Advocacy Support to Women Human Rights Defenders in Times of Crisis. The event will examine challenges faced by women human rights defenders on the ground, highlight the innovative ways in which they are adapting and responding to challenges, and explore how the international community and human rights stakeholders can better support those at the forefront of defending human rights worldwide. We will circulate a save the date and further details shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cuba, followed by Côte d'Ivoire and Italy.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. El próximo martes 8 de agosto, en la sesión de la tarde, tendrá lugar el diálogo interactivo con la relatora especial sobre medidas coercitivas unilaterales. La titular de mandato presentará el informe de la visita oficial que realizó su predecesor a Cuba en noviembre de 2025. El informe, que consideramos objetivo, contiene un riguroso análisis jurídico que demuestra la ilegalidad y la naturaleza profundamente cruel e inhumana del bloqueo económico, comercial y financiero impuesto por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos contra Cuba desde hace casi 70 años. El documento denuncia con numerosos ejemplos factuales el impacto devastador en toda la población cubana de las medidas coercitivas unilaterales, especialmente en las mujeres, niños, personas mayores, personas con discapacidad y personas con enfermedades crónicas. Como se indica en el informe de la relatora, las medidas coercitivas que se imponen a Cuba violan de manera masiva, flagrante y sistemática los derechos humanos de todo un pueblo, incluyendo el derecho a la alimentación, el derecho a la salud, a no vivir en la pobreza, el derecho a una vida digna, así como los derechos económicos, sociales y culturales, al desarrollo y el derecho a la vida. 10 meses después de la visita de la relatora especial, las medidas coercitivas de los Estados Unidos se han recrudecido a niveles extremos. Desde enero pasado se ha impuesto un cerco energético contra Cuba y Estados Unidos impide el acceso de suministros de combustibles a la isla, tanto de carácter comercial como humanitario. El macabro plan es provocar una crisis humanitaria y la total desestabilización del país para abrir paso a una intervención militar. Cuba no está sola. Agradecemos a los numerosos países que han denunciado esta situación y expresado su solidaridad y apoyo, incluyendo en el Consejo de Derechos Humanos. Cualquier Estado podría ser el próximo si una amplia articulación internacional no detiene la barbarie en curso contra el pueblo cubano. Hacemos un llamado a las delegaciones a intervenir en el diálogo con la relatora especial el 8 de septiembre y apoyar las recomendaciones contenidas en el informe sobre la visita a Cuba. Señor presidente, en esta sesión, Cuba presentará un proyecto de resolución con el propósito de renovar el mandato del experto independiente sobre la promoción de un orden internacional democrático y equitativo. El trabajo de este mandato resulta indispensable en el actual contexto internacional. Toda persona tiene derecho a un orden internacional basado en la inclusión, la justicia, la equidad, la dignidad humana, el entendimiento mutuo y la promoción y respeto de la diversidad cultural y los derechos humanos universales. De igual forma, la delegación cubana presentará el proyecto de resolución sobre la utilización de mercenarios como medio para violar los derechos humanos y obstaculizar el ejercicio del derecho de los pueblos a la libre determinación. La labor del Grupo de Trabajo sobre Mercenarios resulta imprescindible para continuar fortaleciendo la identificación y enfrentamiento efectivo de todas las actividades mercenarias que son contrarias a los propósitos y principios de la Carta de las Naciones Unidas, amenazan la paz, la seguridad y la libre determinación de los pueblos y constituyen un obstáculo para el disfrute de los derechos humanos. Invitamos a todas las delegaciones, organizaciones de la sociedad civil y otros actores relevantes a involucrarse de forma activa y constructiva en las consultas que convocaremos sobre ambos textos. Adicionalmente, Cuba organizará el próximo miércoles 9 de septiembre un evento paralelo sobre el recrudecimiento a niveles extremos de las medidas coercitivas unilaterales impuestas contra Cuba y su impacto en el disfrute de los derechos humanos. Esperamos contar con la participación de todos los interesados. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Côte d'Ivoire, followed by Italy and Iraq.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai l'honneur de porter à la connaissance du Conseil qu'en marge de la 76e session à venir, la mission permanente de Côte d'Ivoire organise conjointement avec la mission permanente de la République démocratique du Congo la rencontre africaine pour la défense des droits de l'homme. L'ONG Est cite un événement parallèle sur le thème « Substances et déchets toxiques et droits de l'homme, défis, responsabilités et voies de solution ». L'exposition aux substances dangereuses et la gestion des déchets toxiques constituent aujourd'hui une menace directe pour le droit à la vie, à la santé et à un environnement propre, sain et durable. Ce panel de haut niveau réunira des experts, la nouvelle rapporteure spéciale sur les déchets toxiques et des représentants des sociétés civiles pour analyser la responsabilité des acteurs étatiques et privés tout en proposant des voies de solutions concrètes. L'événement par ailleurs se tiendra le mercredi 16 septembre 2026 de 13h à 14h à la salle Concordia 1. Nous nous réjouissons de la présence ainsi que de la participation active de toutes les délégations et tous les partis prenants à cet événement important parallèle. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Italy, followed by Iraq and Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. President. During the 63rd session, Italy is pleased to support the side event Bringing Human Rights to Life Through Theatre, organized by the Office of the High Commissioner in collaboration with the Italian organization Raíces on 15 September. Combining a theatrical performance on child soldiers with an interactive workshop for university students, this initiative aligns with both the commemoration by the high-level panel of the 15th anniversary of the UN Declaration on Human Rights, Education and Training, and the resolution on human rights education, in which Italy serves as a core group member. We firmly believe that empowering youth through innovative approaches, such as art, is essential to fostering a culture of peace and human dignity worldwide. Also, we are pleased to confirm Italy's full support for the side event enriching cultural heritage and collective memory through disability narratives, organized by Iraq on 14 September in the framework of the Group of Friends for the Cultural Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which Italy currently chairs. Finally, as a member of the core group of the Youth and Human Rights Resolution promoted by El Salvador, Italy remains deeply committed to advancing this agenda, as we are convinced that empowering youth and protecting their rights is fundamental to building more inclusive, resilient and democratic societies globally. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Iraq, followed by Indonesia and Kenya.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. يسعدنا أن نعلن أن وفد العراق بالاشتراك مع وفود كل من إيطاليا وقبرص والمكسيك ومونتينيغرو سينظم فعالية جانبية على هامش أعمال الدورة 63 لمجلس حقوق الإنسان بعنوان إثراء التراث الثقافي والذاكرة الجماعية من خلال سرديات الأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة، التنوع الثقافي والمشاركة. ستعقد الفعالية يوم الاثنين الموافق 14 أيلول من الساعة 1 إلى الساعة 2 ظهرا في قاعة كونكورديا 1. تأتي هذه المبادرة كجزء مهم من أنشطة مجموعة أصدقاء الحقوق الثقافية للأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة، وتهدف إلى إبراز تجارب وإنجازات ومساهمات الأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة باعتبارها جزءاً أصيلاً من التراث الثقافي والذاكرة الجماعية. ندعو الوفود للمشاركة معنا والإسهام في النقاشات المهمة لهذا الحدث. شكراً.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Indonesia, followed by Kenya and El Salvador.
Thank you, Mr. President. Indonesia will present a new draft resolution entitled Enhancing Equal Access of Children to Adequate Nutritious Food. This proposal builds on our initiative in previous session this year, including the joint statement co-sponsored by more than 70 countries, cross-regional member states, during the interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health. The draft resolution aims to contribute to the 2030 global goal of ending all forms of malnutrition, particularly among children. We firmly believe that child malnutrition is also a human rights issue and should therefore be addressed through human rights lens. The text will call for stronger efforts by states and international community to prevent and combat all forms of child malnutrition by enhancing equal access to adequate nutritious food for all children. In support of the Council's continued efforts for rationalization and efficiency, the proposed resolution will not request any mandated activities that entail PBI. We hope for a broad support from the Council, reflecting our shared commitment to eliminating child malnutrition worldwide. Further details, including the main sponsors and schedule of informal consultation, will be informed in due course. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Kenya, followed by El Salvador and Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. President. The African Group has the honor to inform the Council that it will present 5 initiatives during the forthcoming 63rd session of the Human Rights Council under Agenda Items 3, 9, and 10 as follows. Firstly, under Agenda Item 3, the African Group will present 2 draft resolutions. 1, the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the implications of human rights for the environmental sound management and disposal of hazardous substances and wastes. The resolution seeks to extend the mandate of the Special Rapporteur for a further 3 years and underscores the importance of addressing the adverse implications that hazardous substances and wastes may have on the full enjoyment of human rights. Secondly, the mandate of the open-ended intergovernmental working group on private military and security companies. The resolution seeks to advance the work of the intergovernmental working group towards the elaboration of an international regulatory framework concerning the activities of private military and security companies. Under Agenda Item 9, the African Group will present 2 draft resolutions. The mandate of the Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent. The resolution seeks to strengthen efforts towards the elimination of racial discrimination against people of African descent and the promotion and protection to their human rights. Secondly, from rhetoric to reality, a global call for concrete action against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. The resolution seeks to promote concrete actions towards the elimination of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. Under Agenda Item 10, the African Group will present 1 draft resolution. This is technical assistance and capacity building in the field of human rights in the Central African Republic. The resolution seeks to support efforts by the Central African Republic in the promotion and protection of human rights towards technical assistance and capacity building, including through the mandate of the independent expert. We look forward to engaging constructively with all delegations during the consideration of these draft resolutions and encourage broad support for these important initiatives. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of El Salvador, followed by Bangladesh and Guatemala.
Mr. President, I have the honor to take the floor on behalf of the core group of the Resolution on Youth and Human Rights, composed of Côte d'Ivoire, Egypt, France, Greece, Italy, Morocco, the Philippines, Portugal, Moldova, Romania, Tunisia, Uzbekistan, and my own country, El Salvador. This year marks 10 years since the Human Rights Council adopted its first resolution on youth and human rights in 2016. Over the past decade, this initiative has strengthened the recognition of young people as right holders and essential partners in advancing human rights. Yet, young people continue to face significant challenges in fully enjoying their rights. In this context, the core group will present a new draft resolution during the forthcoming session of the Council. To facilitate an open and constructive discussion, informal consultations will be held on 9 September and 11 September. The core group remains committed to engaging constructively with all delegations in order to present a balanced and action-oriented text for adoption by consensus. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bangladesh, followed by Guatemala and Uganda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have the honor to inform the Council that Bangladesh, Egypt, Nepal, and other members of our core group intend to present during the 63rd session of the Human Rights Council a draft resolution under Agenda Item 3 entitled Implications of Artificial Intelligence for the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights. Artificial intelligence is developing at an extraordinary pace and is increasingly becoming part of the way individuals, societies, governments, and institutions function. Its applications are already transforming access to information, education, healthcare, scientific research, public services, and economic opportunities. We therefore approach artificial intelligence first and foremost with the recognition of its significant potential to contribute to the promotion and protection of human rights, sustainable development, and innovation. At the same time, the increasing use of AI, particularly where they influence or support decisions affecting individuals, also raises important human rights considerations. The proposed initiative, hence, seeks to provide a balanced, constructive, and consensus-oriented platform for the Council to consider these evolving issues specifically through the lens of international human rights law. Mr. President, we are fully mindful of the considerable work already undertaken within the United Nations system, including within this Council on the human rights dimensions of technological changes. The proposed initiative is therefore not intended to duplicate existing processes or to create parallel mechanisms as such. Rather, our intention is to build upon existing work and provide a focused opportunity to consider how established human rights principles can remain meaningful and effective as artificial intelligence systems increasingly influence different aspects of people's lives. Moreover, we believe that international cooperation, capacity building, and meaningful participation must also form an integral part of our collective consideration of AI and human rights. Mr. President, Bangladesh, Egypt, Nepal, and other members of our core group are committed to conducting this initiative in an open, inclusive, and transparent manner. We look forward to consulting closely with all member states and relevant stakeholders and to benefiting from their valuable views. Our objective is to work together towards a balanced and forward-looking text that can be adopted by consensus and enjoy the broadest possible support of the Council. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Guatemala, followed by Uganda and Egypt.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Tengo el honor de informar que durante el 73º periodo de sesiones del Consejo de Derechos Humanos, el Grupo Núcleo, conformado por México y Guatemala, presentará el proyecto de resolución titulado Derechos Humanos y Pueblos Indígenas. El proyecto dará continuidad al trabajo de este Consejo en esta materia, incorporará las actualizaciones técnicas y pertinentes y reflejará los desarrollos y recomendaciones más recientes del mecanismo de expertos sobre los derechos de los pueblos indígenas y del relator especial sobre los derechos de los pueblos indígenas. Asimismo, teniendo presente la actual crisis de liquidez de las Naciones Unidas, el proceso y el proyecto de resolución tomará debidamente en cuenta los esfuerzos y recomendaciones orientados a la racionalización y eficiencia del trabajo del Consejo, salvaguardando al mismo tiempo la adecuada atención a los derechos de los pueblos indígenas. Finalmente, extendemos una cordial invitación a todas las delegaciones, a los representantes de los pueblos indígenas y a la sociedad civil a participar activamente en las consultas informales con miras a proporcionar un proceso abierto, inclusivo y constructivo que permita alcanzar un texto ampliamente respaldado por el Consejo. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Uganda, followed by Egypt and Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the non-aligned movement, we would like to inform the Council that we will be tabling 2 resolutions under Agenda Item 3. The first resolution, Mr. President, will be on human rights and the unilateral coercive measures. The main function of this resolution will be to extend the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on unilateral coercive measures. Of course, additionally, it will also re-emphasize the fact that unilateral coercive measures are indeed contrary to international law, international humanitarian law, and the UN Charter. The second resolution, Mr. President, will be the annual resolution on the right to development that we have annually led. And as usual, it will be focusing on the importance of the right to development, including the need to operationalize the draft covenant on the right to development. We will hold informal consultations and the dates will be communicated in due course. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Egypt, followed by Mexico and Marshall Islands.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to make 3 announcements. As mentioned by Bangladesh, we are jointly going to present a draft resolution on AI. The initiative seeks to build on the Council's thematic work, the existing thematic work, and the growing discussions across the United Nations on artificial intelligence governance. The resolution will seek to promote a balanced approach that recognizes the potential of artificial intelligence to contribute to sustainable development and the realization of human rights while addressing associated risks and ensuring that its development and use remain consistent with existing international human rights law. The core group looks forward to engaging constructively with all delegations and stakeholders. Second, Egypt, as a member of the group of the Youth and Human Rights Resolution, attaches particular importance to advancing and promoting the protection of human rights of youth. We are pleased that the upcoming resolution will build on the work undertaken in previous cycles, ensuring continuity and effective follow-up to the Council's previous work in this area. We are mindful of the ongoing efforts to rationalize and streamline the work of the Council, and we will seek to present a focused and concise text that ensures the efficient use of the Council's resources. Third announcement, as for the biennial resolution on terrorism and human rights, which Egypt proudly presents jointly with Mexico, our two delegations are currently consulting on the way forward for this initiative, including in light of the ongoing efforts to rationalize the work of the councils. Our two delegations remain committed to this joint initiative and to promoting a comprehensive and balanced approach to terrorism and human rights, which recognizes both the importance of protecting human rights in the context of counter-terrorism and the serious impact of terrorism itself on the enjoyment of human rights, including the right of victims and their families. We will inform the Council of the outcome of the consultations in due course. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give now the floor to the distinguished representative of Mexico, followed by Marshall Islands and UAE.
Gracias, señor presidente. Me complace informar que en el 63º periodo de sesiones, México presentará el proyecto de resolución titulado Los derechos humanos de los migrantes. La migración ha sido y seguirá siendo parte de la experiencia humana a lo largo de la historia y todos los migrantes, independientemente de su situación migratoria, son titulares de derechos humanos. De acuerdo con el informe sobre las migraciones en el mundo 2026, publicado por la Organización Internacional para las Migraciones, se estima que hay alrededor de 304 millones de migrantes internacionales en el mundo, equivalente al 3.7% de la población global. Y aunque se ha documentado ampliamente que los migrantes y las diásporas contribuyen positivamente al desarrollo sostenible, tanto en sus países de origen como en los de destino, el discurso político en torno a la migración continúa instrumentalizándose para crear una sensación de riesgo y miedo. La última resolución sobre los derechos humanos de los migrantes, la 57/14, adoptada por consenso en octubre de hace 2 años, enfatizó precisamente la importancia de promover narrativas sobre la migración y los migrantes centradas en los derechos humanos, la importancia de contrarrestar la desinformación y de promover mensajes basados en evidencia. Hoy, este tema continúa siendo vigente, motivo por el cual nuestro proyecto conservará el lenguaje contenido en la resolución 57/14 y sobre esa base abordaremos algunos temas adicionales, tanto clásicos como emergentes. Con respecto a los temas clásicos y a fin de contrarrestar narrativas deshumanizantes, el proyecto de resolución recordará que las personas migrantes contribuyen positivamente a las sociedades. En cuanto a otros temas, el proyecto incluirá, entre otras cuestiones, lenguajes sobre tecnologías digitales, así como los elementos derivados de la resolución sobre protección de migrantes en la Asamblea General y de la Declaración sobre los progresos del Foro de Examen de la Migración Internacional de 2026. También se consideran como fuentes los más recientes informes en materia de derechos humanos de los migrantes del Secretario General, de la Oficina del Alto Comisionado y del Relator Especial. Invitamos a todas las delegaciones y a la sociedad civil a participar constructivamente en las consultas informales de nuestro proyecto de resolución. Señor presidente, como ya lo señaló el embajador de Egipto, ambos países, México y Egipto, estamos conscientes de la necesidad de contribuir a los esfuerzos del Consejo por lograr una mayor racionalización y eficiencia. Nos encontramos realizando consultas sobre el proyecto de resolución Terrorismo y Derechos Humanos en el marco de la 63 sesión del Consejo. Ambos países otorgamos una gran importancia a este tema, así como a promover una posición equilibrada en la protección de los derechos humanos en la lucha contra el terrorismo. Finalmente, México se suma a la intervención del representante permanente de Guatemala en relación con el proyecto de resolución sobre los derechos humanos y los pueblos indígenas que presentamos conjuntamente. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. I now give the floor to a distinguished representative of Marshall Islands, followed by the UAE and the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the 63rd session, the Federated States of Micronesia, Fiji, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Vanuatu, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands will present for the third time an Item 10 resolution entitled Technical Assistance and Capacity Building to Address the Human Rights Implications of the Nuclear Legacy in the Marshall Islands. Addressing the nuclear legacy of the Marshall Islands is a regional priority for the Pacific, as reflected in our core group of Pacific Island countries. This resolution hopes to continue OACHR's technical assistance and capacity building to the Marshall Islands to assist in our efforts to overcome the challenges and barriers to the enjoyment of human rights stemming from our nuclear legacy. The foundational HRC's resolution for this work, Resolution 51/35, was presented under Item 10 at the 53rd session in October 2022. It is a biennial resolution that was tabled at the 57th session to extend the mandate for the very first time. At the 57th session, Resolution 57/26 was adopted without a vote. At this 63rd session, we will work constructively towards having the Council adopt the resolution again without a vote. The draft resolution is procedural in nature to continue what has already been established. We will approach this as a technical rollover. We will be including additional preambular paragraphs to recognize the developments that have occurred since 2024 relevant to the resolution and the mandate that it aims to advance, as well as its recognition of the need for a one UN approach. The operative paragraphs has one addition, a request for the OACHR reports to also be made available in easy-to-read, accessible formats. There are two informals tentatively scheduled for 8 and 16 September in room Concordia 1 from 10:30 to 12 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. respectively. Mr. President, on the 1st of October, the Council will convene an enhanced interactive dialogue tentatively scheduled to discuss at this 63rd session the OCHR Report A/HRC/63/76 entitled Addressing the Challenges and Barriers to the Full Realization and Enjoyment of the Human Rights of the People of the Marshall Islands Stemming from the State's Nuclear Legacy. We look forward to constructive engagement and the support of member states at this dialogue. Other events will be organized leading up to the EID to raise awareness, including a side event, documentary screening, and a concert. On the 22nd of September at room S4 from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., we will have a side event on nuclear justice and transitional justice, co-sponsored by the core group of our resolution, the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, the Marshallese Education Initiative, and the World Council of Churches and Mororua e Tato. On the 25th of September, in the margins of the HRC session, we are organizing a concert by Mark Hominy, a Marshallese citizen, in solemn commemoration of 80 years since the first nuclear weapons test in the Marshall Islands in honor of the victims of nuclear weapons and in the lead up to the International Day for the total elimination of nuclear weapons on the 26th of September. On the 28th of September, again in the margins of the HRC session, we will have a panel discussion and film screening in room 14 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. of the documentary film entitled 67 Bombs to Enid, which shares the continued lived experiences and struggles of Marshallese diaspora in Enid, Oklahoma. And this is due to the nuclear weapons testing period. Again, this event is held in acknowledgement of the International Day of the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons in further solemn commemoration of the 80 years anniversary of the very first nuclear test in the Marshall Islands and in honor of all victims of nuclear weapons. In this regard, we thank members of and observers in advance for your cooperation and look forward to our constructive discussions and your attendance of these events. Finally, our presidential envoy on nuclear justice and human rights, Senator David Anitok, is visiting Geneva and would happily organize bilaterals, if schedules align, to discuss our efforts to address the human rights implication of the nuclear legacy. Como dada, Mr. President, I thank you.
Thank you. And I give the floor to a distinguished representative of the UAE, followed by the Republic of Korea and Algeria.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United Arab Emirates is pleased to announce a high-level commemorative side event marking the 12th anniversary of the Human Rights Council resolution on the realization of the equal enjoyment of the right to education by every girl, co-hosted with the United Kingdom. Over the past 12 years, the Council has reaffirmed its commitment to girls' rights to education through successive resolutions, recognizing the transformative importance of inclusive, equitable, and quality education for every girl. The event will provide an opportunity to reflect on the progress achieved, discuss persistent and emerging challenges, and renew our collective commitment to ensure that no girl is left behind. The event will take place on the 28th of September 2026, and we warmly welcome the participation of all member states. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor now to a distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea, followed by Algeria and the DRC.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the core group of the resolution on new and emerging technologies and human rights, the Republic of Korea plans to deliver a joint statement during the 63rd session, highlighting the growing human rights implications of new and emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, coherence across the Council's work, and the effective use of existing processes and resources. We also encourage broad participation of member states in the multi-stakeholder intersessional meeting on the same subject mandated by Resolution 59/11, which is expected to take place between the 63rd and 64th sessions of the Council. In the spirit of ongoing rationalization of the work of the Council, the Republic of Korea, together with a core group of resolution on local government and human rights, consisting of Chile, Egypt, and Romania, has agreed to triannualize this resolution. Accordingly, we plan to present the next iteration of the resolution at the 66th session of the Council in September next year. We hope that others also continue their efforts to further rationalizing the work of the Human Rights Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, let me just mention at this point that we are halfway through the list of those requesting to share information on the draft resolutions. And I'd like to thank colleagues for their patience in waiting for their turn in a system of taking note of speakers in a manual way. Hopefully soon we will have something that is digital, but now it is still manual. So thank you very much for your patience. And now we go to the distinguished representative of Algeria, followed by DRC and Sudan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me, first of all, thank you for your comprehensive briefing and commend you for your able leadership of the Council. The Algerian delegation is pleased to announce that together with the delegations of South Africa, Peru, Mozambique, Vanuatu, and other states, will work to present a new iteration of the Human Rights Council Resolution 58/22 under the title, The Impact of Anti-Personal Mines on the Full Enjoyment of All Human Rights, Strengthening the Victims' Assistance. As reflected in this updated title, this year's resolution will place particular emphasis on the victims' assistance, following broad consultations with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, as well as with civil society organizations working in this field. We firmly believe that victims' assistance provides a practical and unifying way in which this Council can come together to promote the rights and dignity of victims and to place them at the center of our collective efforts against the background of ever-increasing humanitarian needs and at the same time ever-shrinking and limited financial resources. Our aim is therefore to build consensus and to bridge differences among delegations around what we believe is our shared objective, which is to ensure that those affected by anti-personnel mines receive the assistance, the rehabilitation, and the support they fully deserve and they fully need to enjoy their human rights. We look forward to engaging constructively with all delegations and stakeholders interested throughout the upcoming negotiation process, and I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the DRC, followed by Sudan and Ukraine.
Monsieur le Président, je vous remercie pour la parole accordée. Ma délégation a l'honneur d'informer le Conseil que la RDC va présenter le projet de résolution au titre du point 10 de l'ordre du jour intitulé « Assistance technique et renforcement des capacités dans le domaine des droits de l'homme en République démocratique du Congo ». Ce texte, qui est présenté chaque année à la session de septembre du Conseil, vise à consolider les progrès institutionnels du pays en matière de droits de l'homme grâce à une coopération constructive entre le gouvernement de mon pays et le Haut-Commissariat aux droits de l'homme et son bureau conjoint à Kinshasa. Aussi, invitons-nous tous les États membres et observateurs, ainsi que le Haut-Commissariat aux droits de l'homme, à continuer d'apporter leur précieux soutien à mon pays et à cette résolution. Par ailleurs, la RDC organisera un événement parallèle le 29 septembre 2026, de 13h à 14h en salle 5, sous le thème « Droits de l'homme et le travail des enfants dans les industries extractives, de la mine à la salle de classe, garantir les droits de l'enfant par la conversion économique des familles ». Comme vous le savez, le travail des enfants dans les industries extractives touche plus d'1 million de mineurs dans le monde, principalement dans les mines artisanales et à petite échelle. L'objectif poursuivi en organisant cet événement est de susciter un débat afin de proposer des solutions durables pour éradiquer le travail des enfants dans les mines en s'attaquant aux causes principales, notamment la pauvreté extrême, car les familles ont besoin de revenus supplémentaires pour survivre, le manque d'infrastructures, en effet l'absence d'écoles accessibles pousse les jeunes vers des sites d'extraction, et enfin, l'économie informelle, car le manque de contrôle dans les petites mines facilite l'embauche illégale des mineurs. Le soutien et la participation active de vos délégations respectives à cette discussion cruciale sur les droits des enfants seront hautement appréciés. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sudan, followed by Ukraine and Thailand.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. أقدم هذا البيان باسم المجموعة العربية. تسعد المجموعة العربية بإعلان تقديم نسخة محدثة لقرارها السنوي عن المساعدة التقنية وبناء القدرات في مجال حقوق الإنسان بالجمهورية اليمنية، وذلك تحت البند 10 من جدول أعمال الدورة، وسوف تتم موافاة المجلس الموقر بمسودة مشروع القرار. يأتي القرار السيد الرئيس هذا استجابة لاحتياجات اليمن وبناء على طلبه في ظل الظروف الصعبة التي يمر بها، ويهدف لتعزيز الجهود الوطنية لحماية حقوق الإنسان والنهوض بها وتقديم الدعم الفني للمؤسسات الوطنية اليمنية لتمكينها من الوفاء بالتزاماتها. طلع المجموعة العربية إلى دعمكم وتأييدكم ومشاركتكم بشكل فعال في المشاورات التي ستجري حول مشروع القرار، بما يجسد التضامن مع اليمن في هذه المرحلة الحرجة ويعكس التزام مجلس حقوق الإنسان بمبادئه في مجالات المساعدة الفنية وبناء القدرات. شكرا السيد الرئيس.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ukraine, followed by Thailand and the EU.
Mr. President, at the forthcoming session, Ukraine will continue to draw attention to the plight of the victims of the ongoing Russian aggression, with particular focus on the issue of enforced disappearances and incommunicado detentions. Within this framework, we plan to conduct a side event scheduled for 16 September and to deliver a joint statement during the ID with the Working Group of Enforced and Involuntary Disappearances under item 3 of the HRC agenda. I would also like to draw attention to the side event entitled Protecting the UN Charter Through Accountability, the Special Tribunal for the Crime of Aggression, to be held on Tuesday, 15 September at 1 p.m. The event is jointly organized by the Permanent Mission of Ukraine, Council of Europe, the International Bar Association, and the Permanent Missions of the Netherlands, Monaco, and the United Kingdom. It will focus on the role of the Special Tribunal in upholding the prohibition of the use of force and reinforcing the international accountability framework. We look forward to the upcoming interactive dialogues with the Independent International Commission of Inquiry and the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, which will provide the Council with impartial information. With this in mind, we count on the support of Member States for our efforts and warmly invite delegations to participate in our initiatives. In hope for further open and constructive dialogue across the broad agenda of the 63rd session of the Human Rights Council, Ukraine reiterates its commitment to the promotion and protection of all human rights globally. Delivering this statement today on 24th of August, Day of Independence of Ukraine, let me express a sincere gratitude to all our partners who continue to support Ukraine's initiatives at these difficult times of defending human rights amidst Russian aggression. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Thailand, followed by the EU and Poland.
Thank you, Mr. President. During the upcoming session, Thailand, together with interested partners, is pleased to announce the organization of a side event entitled Beyond Jurisdictional Gap, State Responsibility, Technical Cooperation, and International Partnership Against Trafficking in Persons in the context of online scams, to be held on the 11th September. The rapid expansion of online scams and related transnational organized crime has become an urgent human rights concern. Trafficked persons are trapped in scam compounds where they face coercion, violence, and forced criminality. These operations transcend national borders and thrive in enabling environments marked by weak rule of law, making effective international cooperation essential. Building upon the International Conference on the Global Partnership Against Online Scams held in Bangkok last year, as well as the discussion on the human rights impact of online scams led by the Republic of Korea during the 61st session, this side event aims to advance dialogue towards concrete approaches to preventing and responding to human trafficking in the context of online scam and related human rights violation, addressing state responsibility and strengthening cross-border cooperation in investigation, prosecution, and victim assistance. The concept note and invitation will be circulated for your consideration in due course. We would greatly appreciate engagement from all states and stakeholders and look forward to welcoming you to the side event. Thailand also plans to deliver a joint statement on this important issue during the interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of slavery and trafficking in persons. We would welcome interested delegation to co-sponsor the joint statement. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the EU, followed by Poland and Switzerland.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the outset, I wanted to underline our appreciation to you and to the Bureau members for the steps taken to steer the Council's work in these times of continuing funding cuts and rationalization needs. We should all really move towards a efficiency-minded approach, and from our side, you can count on us to play our part in terms of rationalization, and we call all those to play their part on optimizing the use of the means at the disposal of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Now, moving to the upcoming session, the EU will present the following resolutions. Firstly, a resolution to renew the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on Afghanistan. The situation on the ground, especially regarding women and girls, remains abysmal. and warrants our continued and full attention. The Council must call for an immediate end to and accountability for all human rights violations and abuses in all violations of IHL. Secondly, we will present a resolution renewing the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the human rights situation in Burundi. The situation in the country continues to be marked by volatile security context and continued impunity for human rights violations. It's particularly relevant given that we'll have elections in 2027, so it's important to follow the current cycle. Finally, I would like to announce that the EU will present on behalf of all of its member states a resolution under item 4 on the situation of human rights in the Russian Federation, renewing the mandate of the Special Rapporteur. The draft will be based on last year's text from HRC 60 and reflect the latest findings on the continuously deteriorating human rights situation in the country, including in the Special Rapporteur's report that will be presented to this Council on the 21st of September. The EU, as the penholder of this and other resolutions, the HRC 63, is very much looking forward to engaging constructively with all member states and stakeholders. We also look forward to working closely with all delegations on their initiatives, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor now to the distinguished representative of Poland, followed by Switzerland and Australia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to inform you that at the 63rd session of the Human Rights Council, Poland, on behalf of the core group consisting of Australia, Chile, Republic of Korea and South Africa, will present a draft of an biannual resolution under item 3 on the role of good governance in the promotion of human rights. Given the importance of good governance in ensuring respect for human rights, we do hope that member states will engage constructively in the consultation process, and just as in previous years, the resolution can be adopted without a vote. Moreover, Poland will together with the above-mentioned countries, will organize a side event on the conclusions on the study of the Human Rights Council Advisory Committee entitled Impact of AI Systems on Good Governance, which will take place on Wednesday, the 23rd of September at 1400 hours in Concordia 5 room. We are looking forward to the active participation of all member states and partners. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Switzerland, followed by Australia and Afghanistan.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai le plaisir d'annoncer que la Suisse présentera, au nom du groupe des pays auteurs avec le Maroc, 2 initiatives. Tout d'abord, une résolution renouvelant le mandat du rapporteur spécial sur la promotion de la vérité, de la justice, de la réparation et des garanties de non-répétition. Il s'agira essentiellement d'un texte technique. Puis, une nouvelle itération de la résolution de substance droits de l'homme et justice transitionnelle. Ce texte se penchera sur la résolution 51-23 adoptée en 2022. Il se penchera sur le rapport A/HRC/58/36 présenté en dialogue interactif renforcé durant la 58e session du Conseil et qui présentait des exemples de bonnes pratiques et d'enseignements en matière de justice transitionnelle dans le contexte du maintien de la paix et du développement durable, notamment l'objectif de développement durable numéro 16. Il jettera les bases pour une nouvelle demande de rapport. Le projet de résolution pourrait encore être enrichi de références portant sur la documentation, les nouvelles technologies et le traitement des traumatismes dans le contexte de la justice transitionnelle. Alors que la rédaction et les consultations préliminaires de ces 2 résolutions sont encore en cours, nous pouvons déjà informer que les négociations sur ces 2 textes se tiendront à partir du mardi 15 septembre. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Australia, followed by Afghanistan and Chile.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to begin by thanking delegations for their constructive rationalisation efforts so far this year. We have made good progress, and we encourage everyone to consider the information and tools shared by the co-facilitators when preparing their resolutions. Australia, together with Timor-Leste, will present the resolution on national human rights institutions at the 63rd session of the Human Rights Council. NHRIs are among the most important actors and independent voices for the promotion and protection of human rights. They bridge the gap between international human rights standards and implementation on the ground, empowering individuals to understand and exercise their human rights, and contributing to the work of the Council and the broader multilateral human rights system. Since being endorsed by the UN General Assembly in 1993, the Paris Principles have provided the international benchmark for the independent, pluralistic and effective NHRIs. Roughly 3/4 of the current HRC membership have a national human rights institution, and we continue to see growing interest and progress globally in establishing and accrediting NHRIs. The resolution will continue to support the vital work of the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions through the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights to ensure a rigorous, fair and inclusive accreditation process. At a time of increasing pressure on civic space, strong, independent and adequately resourced NHRIs are more important than ever. This is an important initiative to ensure that NHRIs remain independent, effective and equipped to respond to emerging human rights challenges. In this context, at this session, the resolution will focus on the role of NHRIs in promoting and protecting human rights in the digital space. NHRIs are well placed to monitor, assess and advise on the human rights implications of digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, to help prevent and mitigate harms and to support human rights-based approaches. We will also move future iterations of the resolution to a triennial cycle, contributing to the collective effort to rationalise the workload of the Council. We invite all delegations to engage constructively in the negotiations process and hope to reach a position that will allow the resolution to once again be adopted by the Council by consensus. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor now to the distinguished representative of Afghanistan, followed by Chile and the Council of Europe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The delegation of Afghanistan takes the floor to address the situation of human rights in Afghanistan and inform the Council about its initiatives for the 63rd session of the Council. Given the scale and gravity of human rights situation in Afghanistan, we respectfully reiterate the importance of keeping Afghanistan as a standing and prominent priority for the Council, which requires continued and sustained attention. 5 years the Taliban rule, human rights situation in the country continues to deteriorate. Systematic restriction on the rights of women and girls, the near total closure of civic space, and severe limitation on freedom of expression, including artistic and cultural expression, continue without meaningful redress. These are not isolated incidents, but a sustained, institutionalized pattern that the Council has repeatedly recognized as amounting to grave violation of Afghanistan's international human rights obligation. In this regard, we wish to underline the importance of the format of the interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Afghanistan. We believe that an enhanced interactive dialogue would have been preferable, as it would not only have allowed for broader engagement by civil society, but also afforded greater time and space to address the ongoing rights violation. Additionally, alongside our formal engagement, the Permanent Mission is proud to co-organize Blooming Afghanistan, Art Resist, Hope Blooms, with the Swiss Mission, OMCT, a number of other civil society organizations, which includes an exhibition at the Place des Nations opening 7 September, with an interactive painting session and a panel discussion and a concert at Victoria Hall on 8 September, featuring the Special Rapporteur among several panelists. We urge the delegations to participate in these activities. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Chile, followed by the Council of Europe and Armenia.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. On behalf of the core group composed of Argentina, Canada, Ecuador, Guatemala, Paraguay, Uruguay, and my own country, Chile, we would like to briefly announce that we will be presenting a resolution at this session of the Council to renew the mandates of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the fact-finding mission regarding the human rights situation in Venezuela. Informal consultations will be informed in due time. We look forward to working collaboratively with all delegations on this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to a distinguished representative of the Council of Europe, followed by Armenia and Qatar.
Mr. President, on behalf of the Council of Europe, I would like to express our thanks to you, Mr. President, and to the Secretariat for preparations of the upcoming 63rd session of the Human Rights Council. We appreciate the extraordinary efforts to ensure Human Rights Council continued work despite experienced budgetary constraints. It is my honor to briefly present information about the side event that the Council of Europe plans to organize on the margins of the session, as it was already mentioned by Honourable Permanent Representative of Ukraine. The side event, titled Protecting the UN Charter Through Accountability, the Special Tribunal for the Crime of Aggression, is a joint effort of the Council of Europe, the International Bar Association, as well as permanent missions of Ukraine, the Netherlands, Monaco, and the United Kingdom. It is planned for Tuesday, 15 September, 1 p.m. in Room 3. The event, with the participation of recognized international law experts, representatives of international organizations and states, seeks to explore and reiterate the enduring significance of the United Nations Charter's prohibition of the use of force and its relationship with the contemporary accountability efforts. Focusing on the Special Tribunal for the Crime of Aggression against Ukraine, the discussion will assess the role of accountability frameworks in upholding the UN Charter. We warmly invite everyone to join us for these important discussions. Invitations and more detailed information about the event will be shared in the coming days. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Armenia, followed by Qatar and Argentina.
Président, au cours de la 63e session du Conseil, l'Arménie poursuivra ses initiatives en faveur de l'éducation à la paix et aux droits de l'homme, ainsi que de la promotion et de la protection des droits des femmes et des filles dans le contexte des technologies numériques. En partenariat avec l'Université pour la paix, créée sous mandat des Nations Unies, l'Arménie organisera le 30 septembre un événement parallèle consacré à l'éducation à la paix. Il s'inscrit dans le prolongement de l'adoption récente par l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies d'une résolution thématique sur cette question à l'initiative de l'Arménie. Cet événement offrira l'occasion d'examiner les moyens de contribuer à la mise en œuvre de la résolution et d'échanger sur le rôle qui peuvent jouer l'éducation aux droits de l'homme et l'éducation à la paix dans la promotion de sociétés pacifiques, inclusives et résilientes. Il permettra également d'explorer les moyens de renforcer les liens entre les travaux de l'Assemblée générale et ceux du Conseil des droits de l'homme dans ce domaine. Nous invitons cordialement toutes les délégations et les parties prenantes intéressées à participer à cet échange. Dans la continuité de son engagement en faveur des droits des femmes et des filles dans le contexte des technologies numériques, l'Arménie présentera également, au cours de cette session, un projet de résolution consacré à cette question. Cette initiative vise à renforcer la coopération et la coordination internationale entre les acteurs et mécanismes concernés, à mieux prévenir et combattre les formes existantes et émergentes des discriminations, ainsi qu'à répondre aux autres défis en matière des droits de l'homme auxquels les femmes et les filles sont confrontées dans l'environnement numérique. Elle vise également à promouvoir leur participation pleine, effective et significative aux discussions et aux processus décisionnels relatifs à la conception, au développement, au déploiement et à la gouvernance des technologies numériques. Nous nous réjouissons de travailler de manière constructive avec toutes les délégations et l'ensemble des parties prenantes intéressées sur ces initiatives. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Qatar, followed by Argentina and Spain.
سيد الرئيس، سيحيي الوفد الدائم بالتعاون مع التحالف العالمي لحماية التعليم من الهجمات GCPEA فعالية حول الذكرى السابعة لليوم الدولي لحماية التعليم من الهجمات بتاريخ 9 سبتمبر 2026. تتضمن الفعالية حدثا جانبيا في القاعة رقم 16 ما بين الساعة 12 إلى 1 ظهرا، يتبعه إطلاق حملة ممر للمشاة من أجل تسليط الضوء على تزايد الهجمات على التعليم. وشكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you. I give the floor to a distinguished representative of Argentina, followed by Spain and France.
Buenas tardes, señor presidente.
Tengo el honor de informar que un core group liderado por la República Argentina presentará durante este periodo de sesiones una actualización técnica de la resolución sobre la lucha contra el ciberacoso adoptada por consenso por este Consejo en octubre del 24. Nuestro objetivo es dar continuidad al importante trabajo realizado por el Consejo en esta materia, reafirmando el compromiso con la prevención y el combate del ciberacoso desde una perspectiva de derechos humanos y dando seguimiento a los mandatos establecidos en la resolución vigente. El Core Group tiene la intención de mantener un proceso de negociación abierto, transparente e inclusivo y espera poder contar con el compromiso y la participación constructiva de todas las delegaciones para alcanzar nuevamente un resultado consensuado. Por otro lado, en colaboración con Estados miembros y ONGs, estamos organizando un evento paralelo para marcar el Día Internacional de las Personas Mayores, el jueves 1 de octubre a las 13 horas en la Sala 5. Asimismo, debo informar que como presidente actual del Grupo Intergubernamental de Trabajo sobre la elaboración de un instrumento vinculante sobre derechos humanos de las personas mayores, presentaré un informe al Consejo durante la sesión que abre el ítem 3. Por otro lado, desde el punto de vista de procedimiento, agradezco su aclaración acerca del problema que se presenta con la lista de oradores. No puedo dejar de marcar mi asombro por la diferencia en términos de el pedido de palabra y la forma que nos han dado, pero como dice el Evangelio en Mateo 20:16, los últimos serán los primeros. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, and duly noted. Next on my list is the distinguished representative of Spain, followed by France and Azerbaijan.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, y gracias también a las delegaciones que han compartido con el resto de los países sus iniciativas. Por mi parte, me honra anunciar que una vez más Alemania y España presentarán la resolución bienal sobre los derechos humanos al agua potable y saneamiento. Trabajar para lograr el ODS sexto y hacer realidad en 2030 el acceso universal y equitativo al agua potable y segura y asequible, así como el acceso a un saneamiento e higiene adecuados y equitativos para todas las personas, es una prioridad de todo el sistema de Naciones Unidas. Por eso, con esta iniciativa pretendemos mantener el nivel de ambición y avanzar en una mejor integración de estos derechos en los procesos en curso de las Naciones Unidas, especialmente con vistas a las conferencias sobre el agua de los años 26 y 28. Todo ello, en todo caso, siendo conscientes de la necesidad de continuar con el enfoque de racionalización y eficiencia que venimos aplicando en esta agenda. Y esperamos contar con una participación constructiva en las negociaciones sobre esta resolución que se comunicarán, se anunciarán a su debido tiempo. Y también como grupo promotor continuaremos apoyando las iniciativas lideradas por la Oficina del Alto Comisionado y el Relator Especial para los Derechos Humanos al agua potable y al saneamiento durante esta sesión. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of France, followed by Azerbaijan and Morocco.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais d'abord remercier le représentant permanent de l'Argentine de nous avoir fait savoir pourquoi et de nous avoir soulagés de comprendre pourquoi nous étions les derniers. Monsieur le Président, lors de cette 63e session du Conseil des droits de l'homme, la France aura l'honneur de présenter, au nom d'un groupe d'États composé de l'Argentine, du Maroc et du Japon, une résolution afin de renouveler le mandat du groupe de travail sur les disparitions forcées ou involontaires. Ce mandat contribue depuis 1980 à venir en aide aux familles des personnes disparues dans leur quête de justice et de vérité sur le sort de leurs proches, sur l'endroit où ils se trouvent et sur les responsables de ces violations abjectes. Il est le maillon entre les familles et les gouvernements. Le travail de ce groupe est essentiel pour le recensement des cas de disparition forcée. Plus de 60 000 cas ont été portés à l'attention du groupe depuis sa création et plus d'1 millier sont examinés chaque année par les 5 experts indépendants. Comme en témoignent les derniers rapports du groupe, les disparitions forcées demeurent un phénomène global qui impacte les victimes, leurs proches et la société dans son ensemble. Mesdames, Messieurs, chers collègues, cette résolution fera l'objet, comme à l'accoutumée, de consultations ouvertes et nous espérons qu'elle pourra de nouveau être adoptée par consensus. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Azerbaijan, followed by Morocco.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's evident that there is a need to increase the international community's focus on and support for the victims of landmines and other explosive remnants of war, and to promote and realize a victim-centered perspective. In this regard, the Permanent Mission of Azerbaijan will organize a side event on the margins of the 63rd session of the Council, Friday, 18 September, entitled Sharing the Best Practice in International Cooperation to Provide Assistance for the Care and Rehabilitation and Social and Economic Reintegration of Mine Victims and for Mine Awareness Programs. The event will bring together representatives of diplomatic missions, civil society, and the relevant parts of the United Nations to consider how Council can further strengthen its focus on the needs and rights of victims, vulnerable groups, and affected communities. We encourage all delegations and relevant stakeholders to participate in this important discussion and contribute to the strengthening of the Council's victim-centered approach to the human rights consequences of landmines and other explosive remnants of war. I thank you.
Thank you. And now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Morocco.
Monsieur le Président, ma délégation se félicite des efforts du secrétariat pour garantir l'efficacité et l'efficience des travaux du Conseil face aux défis actuels. Fidèle à son engagement en faveur des droits de l'homme, le Maroc compte contribuer activement aux travaux de cette session du Conseil. Ainsi, le Maroc organisera un événement parallèle, le 24 septembre 2026, à 14 h, pour présenter les conclusions de la retraite consacrée au renforcement de l'examen périodique universel qui s'était tenu à Rabat les 5 et 6 juin 2026. Cette retraite, organisée avec le HCDH et UPR Info, avait connu la participation de plusieurs États membres, agences onusiennes, organisations de la société civile et experts indépendants dans l'objectif d'identifier les voies du renforcement de l'EPU à l'aube de son 5e cycle. Vous avez bien voulu, Monsieur le Président, y présenter vos perspectives sur cette importante question. Aussi, l'événement parallèle que compte organiser le Maroc viendra parachever cet effort en offrant un espace d'échange sur les recommandations issues de cette retraite. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, and we look forward to that discussion. I've exhausted speakers on my list. Am I missing anybody requesting the floor? I see none. I thank all delegations for sharing information on their initiatives, and once again to thank them for their patience as they wait for their turn to present and share information on their initiatives. Main sponsors of resolutions are encouraged to consider the multi-year program of work and the HRC mapper tool when proposing new initiatives. The 3-year program of work for 2026-2028 is on the HRC portal for everyone to consult. I also urge delegations to consider sharing information early in the process in order to enhance transparency and predictability in the Council. Let me underline that in line with Resolution 5/1, delegations are invited to conduct open-ended informal consultations with at least one held for each draft resolution or decision before action is taken by the Council. The consultation should be scheduled in a manner that considers the constraints faced by delegations, particularly smaller ones. This will help all of us to keep a constructive atmosphere based on transparency, dialogue, and cooperation. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, turning to documentations and statements, let me briefly mention some important technical information. Regarding the documents for the session, 36 of the 86 reports prepared for this session are available in all official UN languages and posted on the Council's website. The rest will be uploaded in the coming weeks. All participants are kindly requested to upload the electronic version of oral statements through the online system or send them by the relevant email addresses. All oral statements should be electronically submitted to interpreters at least 1 hour before their delivery. This is important for the quality of interpretation. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, before we conclude, let me recall that 2 online events will take place tomorrow morning, starting at 11 a.m. The first is the presentation of the HRC portal, the upgraded HRC extranet. The co-facilitators on the use of modern technologies in the work of the Human Rights Council will provide an update on their work, followed by a presentation and technical briefing by the Secretariat. The second, immediately afterwards, and at the same link, is an informal briefing for the benefit of new delegates on the Council's rules of procedures, practices, and working methods, covering, among other issues, the program of work, speaking modalities, and resolutions and decisions. Both briefings will be held in English only. I encourage all delegations to take part in both. Please refer to the note verbal sent by the Secretariat on August 17 for technical details of participation. We are coming to the end of this meeting. I would like to open the floor now for any comments or information on the issues discussed throughout the afternoon. I recognize the distinguished representative of Rwanda. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. My delegation thanks the Bureau, through you, Mr. President, for the comprehensive briefing. Regarding draft resolutions and initiatives introduced before the Council, my delegation wishes to recall that they should be firmly grounded in human rights considerations, contribute constructively to the fulfillment of the Council's mandate, and be considered objective, transparent, and in a spirit of constructive cooperation. Particular care should be taken to preserve the Council and its mechanism from politicization or the pursuit of objectives unrelated to the mandates under which initiatives are presented. In this regard, my delegation recalls the distinct purpose of Agenda Item 10, which is to advance technical assistance and capacity building. Engagement under this item should therefore remain needs-based, cooperative, and responsive to the priorities of the countries concerned, with a clear focus on strengthening national capacities and achieving tangible human rights outcomes. Maintaining the integrity of the Council's agenda requires that initiatives be considered under the agenda items corresponding to their substantive purpose. Technical assistance and capacity building mechanisms should not become channels for addressing matters that fall outside their intended scope or for reproducing political disputes that can undermine constructive engagement. Informal consultations on draft resolutions should not be treated as mere procedural formality or convenience. They should serve to facilitate meaningful and substantive engagement among member states. Such consultations should provide member states with a genuine opportunity to raise concerns, contribute to the meaningful. Such consultations should provide member states with a genuine opportunity to raise concerns, contribute to the substantive proposed texts, and seek greater convergence before initiatives are presented for action. Meaningful consultations strengthen both the legitimacy and effectiveness of the Council's decisions. Rwanda remains committed to working with all delegations to strengthen the Council's ability to deliver on its mandate in an impartial, objective, and non-politicized manner, guided by its established mandates, agreed procedures, rather than practices whose basis or origin is unclear. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Uruguay.
Gracias, señor presidente. Deseamos hacer referencia a la información presentada por la Oficina del Alto Comisionado de las Naciones Unidas para los Derechos Humanos sobre el impacto de la actual crisis financiera y de liquidez de la organización en la ejecución de los mandatos encomendados por este Consejo. En este sentido, observamos con particular inquietud las consecuencias que esta situación está generando para el pilar de derechos humanos, que desde hace años debe responder a demandas crecientes con una asignación limitada de recursos del presupuesto regular. Nos preocupa que las reducciones afecten de manera directa la capacidad de implementar mandatos, cubrir vacantes indispensables y sostener funciones básicas de asesoramiento, monitoreo y apoyo a los mecanismos de este Consejo. Asimismo, pueden afectar el funcionamiento efectivo de la oficina, los órganos de tratados y los procedimientos especiales, así como la capacidad de los Estados, en particular aquellos con recursos más limitados, de participar y relacionarse plenamente con estos mecanismos. Uruguay considera que las medidas de eficiencia y los procesos de reforma deben contribuir a fortalecer el sistema y no resultar en una reducción de su capacidad sustantiva. En su calidad de presidente del Grupo de Amigos de los Procedimientos Especiales, Uruguay subraya la importancia de garantizar que estos mecanismos cuenten con condiciones y recursos suficientes para desempeñar plenamente los mandatos que le han sido confinados por este Consejo y subraya la necesidad de preservar la independencia, visibilidad, accesibilidad y capacidad operativa de estos mecanismos. Las actuales restricciones financieras no deberían menoscabar su capacidad para cumplir de manera efectiva los mandatos establecidos por este Consejo, ni limitar su interacción con los Estados y otros actores relevantes. Por ello, resulta esencial garantizar las condiciones y los recursos necesarios para su funcionamiento. En este sentido, Uruguay hace un llamado a redoblar la cooperación para proteger la integridad del sistema internacional de derechos humanos y asegurar los recursos necesarios para cumplir plenamente con los mandatos encomendados al Consejo de Derechos Humanos. Muchas gracias.
I thank the distinguished representative of Uruguay, and the meeting takes note of it. Any further requests for the floor? I see none. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, thank you very much for your cooperation today and for the information that you have shared. I look forward to seeing you in this room for the opening of the 63rd session on Monday, 7 September at 10 a.m., 2 weeks from now. And I hereby close the organizational meeting of the 63rd regular session of the Human Rights Council. Thank you very much.